Hello Nick. Hello Nick Athena. Ini apa nih? Ini? Enggak rasa fokus begini nih. Ya, terus sama aku pun boleh fokus sudah. Ini apa yang masuk? Oke guys. Oke, share dulu. Biru kan? Nah, ini sangat biru. Avatar. Sudah saya pakai baju biru. Pantesan. Tidak saya dapat. Oke, share lagi. So, 2.30 tepat kita akan start ya. Share lagi. So, 2.30 tepat kita akan. Kabelnya nih. Kabelnya masalah. Iya. Tapi bagi cek oke aja kan? Iya, tadi caranya. Masuk tiba-tiba sinaran di dalam. Oke guys, bantu share dulu guys. Kita nak mau start nih. Penat kami jemput si dia punya King nih. Kalau kamu nak share dulu. Bantu share dulu sebab benda yang kita mau share hari ini nih agak kuning tinggi. Ada macam dia attach. Halo, don't share guys. Hi Jesse Krish. Tiga review. Itu kita start awal, hari itu kita start putar tiga. Inilah. Hi Brandon. Share dulu Brandon. Hi Jessie. Jam berapa sudah? Oh, 1 minit lagi latihannya. Oke, kita akan start dalam 1 minit lagi. Oke, kita start lah kan? Oke, kita start lah kan? So, kita start tepat pada 2:30. Tapi yang 26 view ni tolong share dulu. Kita mau kasih next view sebelum saya memperkenalkan kita punya moderator dan tetamu jemputan. Start tepat pada 2. Hi Agnes, hello. Okay, so kita akan mulakan FB live share petang ini. So selamat petang semua dan selamat datang ke OT live share 8.0 dengan tajuk And the Stigma with Mental Illness. So saya Nancy Julai, Occupational Therapy, Hospital Duchess of Kent Sandakan, Sabah, selaku host anda pada petang ini. So saya masih ingatkan lagi kalau semua ni kita share dulu sebelum saya kenalkan kita punya moderator dan tetamu jemputan. Dan saya ingatkan juga kalau ada apa-apa soalan, boleh terus tulis di ruangan chat and then kita akan kumpul and then kita akan address soalan pada sesi Q&A, question and answer pada hujung sesi ni. Okay, so tanpa membuang masa, saya perkenalkan moderator kita pada hari ini iaitu Dr Farihah. Beliau berasal dari Selangor, graduan dari Management and Science University MSU Shah Alam, telah melengkapkan housemanship di Hospital Tuanku Jaafar Seremban, kini berkhidmat sebagai pegawai perubatan psikiatrik selama hampir 3 tahun. Hai, selamat petang doktor.
Hello, selamat petang. How are you, Nancy? Okay?
I'm fine, thank you. Dan sekarang saya akan memperkenalkan tetamu jemputan kita pada petang ini iaitu Daphne King. Yes, I believe all the Sabahan, not only Sabahan, I think all the Malaysian really know her. Dan saya akan bacakan sedikit mengenai pengalaman beliau. Iaitu beliau mempunyai pengalaman dalam Master of Ceremony and Corporate and Lifestyle MC from 2001 until current. As a broadcaster, TV presenter, producer, broadcast journalist from 2001 until current. As a content creator and education background, graduated in University Science Malaysia in Master degree in Screen Studies and degree in Broadcasting, TV, Radio and Film. And hello Daphne.
Hello, hi Nancy.
And
Hi
thank you for
Doctor. Assalamualaikum everyone.
Assalam. Hi, Daphne.
Thank you for joining us today.
Oi,
Okay,
terus
so-
saya dengar Sabahan and then I'm like, I've got Dr Farihah speaking the Malaya, terus macam saya confused sekejap macam mana biasa.
Don't worry, I can speak Sabah also.
Kita campur-campur lah kan Daphne
Boleh
and
ba?
doktor.
Boleh ba?
Okay. Okay, so tanpa membuang masa saya serahkan kepada moderator kita iaitu Dr Farihah. Silakan doktor.
Alright, thank you, Nancy. Alright, Assalamualaikum and very good evening. Okay, so hi, Daphne. Is it okay I call you just Daphne or is there anything else?
Boleh.
Okay, I
Pop
boleh ya.
on. Daphne, I'm fine.
Okay, so you can just call me Dr. Fari lah. That's usually how my patient address me also. Okay,
Okay.
so first of all, I'm introducing myself as a psychiatry MO lah dekat Hospital Sandakan here. So I'm here for almost 3 years. So I think roughly our host had explained to you earlier kan kita punya topic today, and it's very wonderful to actually have you. It's very pleasant to have you to give a sharing dengan kita punya audience semua. Because I heard a lot about you sharing about this mental illness, and I'm very proud of you for doing that. Thank you so much for that. Huh?
Thank you for having
Okay.
me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so first of all, the target today is actually we want to end the stigma about this mental illness. So I hope with our talk today, actually we can achieve that. So all in all, I mean, we always hear people say tak kenal maka tak cinta. Once dah kenal, you berjinak-jinak and bercinta, right? So hopefully we're able to do that, and our audience can change their perspective, and also maybe we can just destigmatize all those about mental illness. Okay,
Absolutely. Agree.
so all right. So firstly, I think I'm just going to give some brief about stigma first, since we have to understand the definition of stigma and why people always say gila. When it comes to psychiatry, equals to gila. So firstly, we have to know that stigma is when people actually, they put a negative perception toward you. They label you with a negative thoughts. So in psychiatry, usually they say, oh, psychiatry ialah gila. So why people say gila? Padahal it's just a very, how you say, it's a very layman's term, and it's broadly used for a lot of things. Penat gila hari ni, stres gila dengan kerja hari ni. But it doesn't mean that gila tu is for just psychiatry. Because if you want to know that actually psychiatry, our psychiatric patient, it consists a lot of diagnoses, and one of it, anxiety, panic, depression. And how do you say, takkanlah orang-orang ni semua, oh sebab you ada depression, you gila. Sebab you ada anxiety, so you gila. We cannot say that, right? So same also when we say about autistic patient, they are also under psychiatry department. So are we trying to say autistic hyperactivity childrens are gila? That is so inappropriate for us to label them so lah. Okay? So that's why we have to understand the definition of minda sehat. We always say, oh, you have to get a healthy mental, minda sehat, healthy mind. But what do you know about that? So we have to understand there's 4 main components inside minda sehat tu sendiri. First, it must be positively about you are comfortable with yourself. Second, it must be comfortable with everyone else. Third, comfortable with the environment around you. And lastly, you must be able to attain or at least attend the needs in your life, including all your responsibility. And all these things positively must be involving biologically, psychologically, spiritually, and definitely socially. Okay, so with all these things, that is our target, that we at least can end the stigma when we focus on all these things. Okay, so another thing that I want to touch about is when you say mental illness, kan? Why do we say mental tu adalah illness? It's not we tak cakap gila saja. It's just like you say diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol, heart attack. Are you telling that because of those organs dia ada sakit, so mental illness ni sebab tak nampak you cakap dia tak sakit? It's not like that. So mental illness meaning it involve your brain and definitely you punya emotions. So these two things also, when it's not well treated or is not well, kita kata macam we always say kan, there is no health without mental health. So kalau sakit daripada you punya brain tu sendiri, you are not getting help, you are not getting treatment, then how should you live despite you have a healthy physical? Okay, so that's why we have to destigmatize this, and I'm sure probably Daphne can help me to do that together lah today. All right. So Daphne, is it okay I start with my first question to you?
Please go ahead.
Okay. So First and foremost, I think the audience mostly will be interested to know the experience that maybe you yourself or probably people around you experience about this stigmatizing of the mental illness. Could you share some of it?
Boleh. Firstly, I'm glad that you actually spoke about what the definition of stigma is, because ramai orang kan dorang ingat stigma and discrimination are often the same thing, but it's not. One is how you see it as a person, as an individual. There's a stigma behind it, like what you said about labeling, and one is the discrimination of that person who has mental illness, so how they treat the person. So it often overlaps with one another. And then again, like you said, mental illness, it's not just about someone who's a bit loopy, okay? It's not just someone who you always see all these high profile cases shown in the media, and you always see someone, it's a very extreme matter. Then only you think, okay, this person has psychological problems, he has a mental illness problem, hence that is how you stereotype someone who has a mental illness. But for someone, like you said, anxiety, paranoia, depression, that's something like, alah, dia tak cukup sembayang, dia tu, alah, they need to manage themselves, kena solat, doa lah banyak-banyak, you know. And that is the reason why, maybe it's true what they're saying, because I really feel low. And I'm going to get into that a little bit deeper, because I think that is the first thing we need to educate the public. You know, that there's a lot of illnesses that falls underneath the mental health. You said it quite beautifully about, we've got heart problems, liver problems, there's diabetes, there's that. So just like in our head, our mind, we've got different illnesses caused by different things. So having said that, yes, I think the earliest thing that I've was encountered to as a child was on this topic of dia tu gila. Kalau orang Kadazan bilang muhau bagi dia tu, you know. My godmother actually, and now that I'm more mindful on my words, she was, for the lack of a better word, gila, you know. So my godmother was, she was a little off. And at that time, they just thought she was a bit weird, or she was just a bit, but they'll just go, muhau, gila. And if I did anything in my childhood, because she was my godmother, if I did something out of the norm that would not conform to the society, then they will automatically say, kau ni ikut kau punya godmother lah, kau pun memang ada gila sikit, muhau-muhau kau ni, ada tempias-tempias dia, you know? And I think that sort of limited me and crowded me to become a person that I was not. So I was not able to be my authentic self. And when I was not being my authentic self, it of course caused me to have depression, because I don't feel I'm not expressing myself the way I am, because everyone thinks that, because the connotation of, if I do something different, hence I am labeled gila, my godmother is gila, and everyone's making fun of her. So it was a very nasty chain, My brother, how do I pronounce it? Schizophrenia? Schizophrenia, right? And this was a very difficult issue that we had to bring up as a family, because whilst my father, who's very stern, my late father, very stern, very into academics, and he was, your typical ex-policeman, so A means A, black and white, whereas my mother, who has the medical know-how, when she saw signs that my brother had mental problems, concerns, my father wanted to, we need to just punish him, he needs to be doing this, and my mom said, no, kita mau hantar dia pergi Bukit Padang. Bukit Padang is now known as Hospital Bahagia, which is a hospital to address issues like this, right? And my father was really against it. He said apa orang nanti orang kampung bilang apa macam tu. My mother said he needs help. So it was very difficult, because even though my father, who's a well-educated man, who loves the family, even that, it was very hard to sort of eradicate and take away that stigma that has been developed since he was young, because they automatically, Hospital Bahagia, at that time we called it Bukit Padang lah, is orang gila. If anyone goes there, oh my God, that's like shameful, my water face, where? So that's where I've learned to be a little bit more open about it, because if we keep on shying away from issues like this, people are constantly going to think if they have any concerns like depression, anxiety, and whatever it is that falls under the umbrella of mental illness, then they are going to just shut away, and it's going to make matters worse. And it's going to it'll affect their family, because then it's going to be, a background culture of this mindset that this is, what, as opposed to seeking professional help or getting the support that you need. So yeah, that is something that has happened from my childhood and someone very close to me. And I will be speaking about this maybe in a bit, but I also faced postpartum depression, and I held it back in. And I think I was embarrassed to talk about it until just a few years ago, simply because I probably have another disorder that may have affected me speaking up, because I've always wanted to have this A game, this perfectionist. I need to have this, and in order for me to be perfect, I'll be able to do this. I never cut myself any slack. Even when I was pregnant and, delivering the child, I was in pain, and there was so much in my head that I had to conform to. I am able to do this, but I was crying, I was in pain, I had all these horrible thoughts, but I had to suppress all that, because hey, Daphne Eiking doesn't do that. Daphne Eiking is able to do all this because she's like, she's always the positive one. She's always the one that is able to get her A game going. She's so professional. So yeah, that is some of the things that has happened to me, has happened among my closest and dearest, and that's the reason why I'm here today to talk to you about ending mental illness stigma.
Okay. Well, that's a lot of event actually happens to you regarding mental illness, it seems. I mean, it started since childhood, and now at this age, meaning it's like over maybe 30 years already, you've been going through all these things, right?
Mm-hmm. And
So,
I've already spoken about it more openly 2-3 years ago, because I started working more with unwed pregnant mums, and I could see the behavior and the traits that were so familiar, and I knew I needed to speak up. And then they would not listen to me if I did not share my authentic story with them, because they'll probably just think, oh God, she's here just to give me some, lecture, nagging me, preaching me, thinking she's holier than thou. So when I was able to authentically share my story, and I say, I think you need help, because this is what happened to me. Did this happen to you like this? Yes. Oh, did you do this? Yeah. What did you do about it? How did you cope? How did you manage? So it's easier for me when I'm working on my cases like that, when I do my advocacy work.
yeah, because at least they hear it from you as a first person, right? Especially when you are such an icon. So it's easier for you when you say it, people will listen better, actually.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Well, at least the benefit of it. Okay. So yeah, actually, even me myself, when I'm working as a psychiatric MO for almost 3 years, actually there's a lot of stigma I've been seeing in my patients itself. Some of them actually just brought to our emergency department and then telling that, oh, he's actually been unwell for almost 5 years. But only now we're bringing. Why? It's been aggressive. It's been suicide. It's been like he can't function anymore. I mean, when they reach that level, only they feel like, oh, this is the level of getting help. Because before that, all they think is that, kau mengada je ni, kau ni nak cari perhatian. As you said just now, kau ni tak cukup sembahyang, iman kau tak cukup. All those things are the common stigma that we've been hearing. So even, believe it or not, some of our patients, they are like, it's not that I'm saying that being ustazah or ustad or somebody that we look up for, very religious, can't have mental illness. They can have, because it's not related to Islam or maybe related to any religion dari segi keimanan at all. No. So that's why we need to emphasize on this, so that people can correct it, so that when people are destigmatizing this, they can know that, okay, this is the point where I can get help. As Daphne said, as Dr. Farihah said, this is the time I need to get help. Okay, so since you mentioned it about all the family members that you went through, I mean, the first person experience, maybe you can tell, you've been opening it up over the past 3 years. So probably, how do you actually when you open it up, I'm sure it actually affects your job. Maybe there will be effect at your workplace, or maybe affect impressions among your family members. How do you take it? I mean, how do you react with that?
I think with my immediate family, my nucleus family, meaning my husband, my parents, my mom at least, because my father passed away, as well as my siblings, they are open. They know, and they don't. They actually are quite supportive. In terms of workplace, well, because I'm a freelancer, so I don't have a company per se. I am my own person. But when I did go public about this, it was great because I started getting the media attention. And it's not as if I wanted to do it for media attention, but it was great because that's when I think I was given a very suitable platform to be able to address this issue and to ensure that a lot of people were aware and a little bit more mindful about the words and thoughts that they carry when dealing or having someone in their family or close circle of friends who may have a problem, or if they are facing it, at least someone they know that, oh, this person, where's the support group. But I do remember, and like I said, I had bouts of depression up and down, and I always thought it was just, Daphne, facts of life. Everyone goes through happy and sad, joys and moments of depression. But and that's why I think I did not really push it as a mental state of concern, because it was just state of affairs that took place. My divorce, and then having to be a single mom and coping with it. And so it was a natural, like, yalah dia divorce, mestilah dia sedih. Or yalah dia sekarang single mother, dia kena cari duit semua, mestilah dia sedih. But it was also a amount of other issues, and it was always, you're keeping it in. A lot of people think that so mental illness can be caused by genetics. It can be caused by a lot of things, like even your background. Maybe you have had a bad experience in the past. Maybe you were sexually assaulted or, harassed and stuff. So that macam-macam ada. So in this case, mine was just a progression of life events, and I was not able to manage it anymore. On top of the fact that I always had to be A game. I always had to be that perfect A student. I always had to be this person that has no problem, was able to carry her through. So it was cracking. I was cracking underneath. So going back to that talk about workplace, I remember I was doing this live show. Live on national TV, not like this where got people come in, don't come in.
Okay.
Time slot yang memang gempak. F1 punya sport event, okay? And I love my F1. So they had 2 rotating hosts, and I was one of them. So selected by her choice of hosts, I was one of them. Huge event. And at that time, I was really down. I felt I was financially low. I was already going through my divorce. I was missing my daughter because I sent her over to Sabah to be looked after my parents. So I was really low, but still A game, because I'm a TV presenter. Everything must be professional, and I take pride in being professional. That particular live show, it was there was a crash, and for some reason I blanked out. I just blanked out because I was just so mentally exhausted, emotionally drained, and I just was not ready. I was not mentally there. The next day, I was fired for that particular show. I cried buckets, and my boss told me to take leave because he knew. He sort of knew. I mean, it was my divorce wasn't quite very private. It was for the whole world to know, which added on to my stress. So he knew what was happening, and he said, you know what, Daphne, I need you to take leave for 2 weeks. You need to go. And, and I, of course, felt defensive, like, I can do this. It was just like one off. What are you trying to say? Because that Daphne Eiking personality, perfect, Miss Perfect, OCD, said, like, I can do this. Don't, and he was like, look, I was lucky he was there to say, look, I am reassuring you that it's nothing to do with me not thinking that you're good enough, whatever. I think you need to heal. You are tired. We're not talking about, because I was like, no, I'm not. I'm okay. I was just one off. He said, no, Daphne, you need to heal. You've got issues that you need to heal. You need to heal. And after this, you will bounce back. I promise you there will be a job for you. So he kept reassuring. So I was very lucky. I had boss Sofwan, thank you. Sofwan, thank you for giving me that chance. Okay, so he believed in me. He said, you need to go back and take a quick leave and just recover. He did not call me crazy. He addressed my depression, but he did not make it seem as if because he's depressed, he's going to be less productive and stuff like that. Of course, I am less productive because I'm not healthy. I am sick, right? And he addressed that. After 2 weeks, I was also going through up and downs, which included suicidal thoughts. But I think by the grace of God, because I was able to have that quiet time me alone, I was able to crawl out of it slowly but surely. And here I am, bouncing back. Happily married, found a new love, added on 3 more kids along the way. But that's just it. And that's the story. I think workplace, you have to have people around you who do see and support and understand, because I think if it was another boss that I also had, I don't think he would be that kind to me, and I think I would be fired completely from my whole job.
Oh, that's a very wonderful share, and it's good that actually you have such a very supportive boss who actually understands your situation, give you a chance to at least recover. I mean, everybody, we are human beings. We're not a robot. So definitely we have feelings. And when you go through a lot of emotion, so people understand you, that is such a wonderful thing that you experience. So, I mean, at what point when you have that depressive phase, right? Personally, how did you notice that, okay, I went through like this and then I was fired at that time. But how do you know that, okay, this is the point, I really need help. I need to seek maybe counseling or psychiatrist or any help. At what point, Daphne, that you noticed that?
I think it was really scary because, again, I know I'm a very bubbly personality and I'm very positive. I'm naturally like that. I'm full of energy. But when I started withdrawing from friends, and at that point of time, I was missing my daughter so much, so I flew her in, not really having the full capacity of being able to also look after her. So she was about one years old. So Isabel was at this stage where she was still crawling. She couldn't speak yet. And I was up and down and I was in my room. I drew the curtains dark. And it really, like, sometimes when I tell this jokingly to the girls that I counsel, right, I say it almost appears as if it comes from this movie, but that's exactly what happened. I drew the curtains, and at that time I was renting out this room, and it had really dark night curtains, so it was really gelap, and I had a knife with me. So I was saying, like, you know what? Let's just end this pain. You know, and I'm like, I don't even know how to kill myself. So that was like, even then, I was like planning the perfect suicide. Because in my head, like, tak mau menyusahkan my parents, kesian pula anak I, who's going to clean up? Am I clean when after they find my body? You know, those thoughts. So it was very systematic. My thoughts about how I was going to kill myself were systematic. But I was like, I just want to end this pain. But again, I think it had a lot to do with God, and I am very grateful for my firstborn. So she was outside, and I had someone to look out for her outside. But she came crawling in, and she just sort of just sat down on my lap, and I was holding a knife, and of course, the other side of me, like there was a tiny bit of Daphne Eiking that was still positive, still the mother, the role of Daphne Eiking that was a bit more responsible, who wasn't sick, who had a bit of hope in her, you know. So that part sort of triggered and said, like, oh shoot, this is my daughter over here. What the hell am I doing? I'm holding a knife, and this is dangerous for my daughter. So I was a bit like, you know, because remember, I'm still mentally not strong. I am still suffering. So, like, you know, sumpah, demi Allah, the light from that dark night curtain shine through. So I don't know if it was God or whatever it was, but drama skit. In my head, it could have been something that was playing in my head. I don't know, but it worked. That was the time, my turning point, when I said, wake up. You cannot do this to yourself. You need to focus your energy on something else. You need to be able to manage this better. You need to seek help. Talk to mom. She will understand. How are you going to tell her? Just find a way. So I got out from that how should I clean myself after who's going to clean after me after I die? Oh, the blood's going to be like that. Maybe I shouldn't put it here because later my white thing will kena kacau. Two, I need to talk to someone. Mom would be the first person that would be good. How am I going to talk to her? So it's sort of like my planning stages went to a more positive managing this whole scenario better. And that's basically what happened.
Okay. So the one that you share actually is quite typical when we hear among all other patients who experience depression. Because usually depression, the first thing that came to their mind that makes them want to come and seek our help is that, saya rasa macam saya nak bunuh diri. Then only we explore the issues and so on. So in your case, that actually you already know all the issues that you are going through, especially like you mentioned earlier, it's like the whole world knows the issues that you are going through. So it's like the matter of how you want to go through, because one reason, you have a daughter at that time. That put you the strength to continue and bounce back to who you are right now.
Absolutely.
So
You're spot on.
yes. Okay. So yeah, I mean, that's what about mental illness. Sometimes it's not just the matter of we are trying to seek for attention. No, meaning it's like you know your limits, you know when you need help. So when at that point, that's when you tell the right person. But sometimes with stigma, even in your family members, will make you pause from getting the right help. Because believe it or not, some of my patients actually, when they come to me at a very young age, about 15, 18 years old, when they come to me, it's like, I wanted to come here, but my parents actually refused. They deny my needs, my mental needs. So it's like, okay, that's when we need to sit down with their parents. We give their reassurance. We say that it's okay. At least they are aware at an earlier age that they need help. They need someone to talk to. They need medication to stabilize their emotion, or maybe to control the impulsivity or thought that they have, all these negative things in their mind. So yeah, this mental illness is something very serious. It's just that the matter of how we are taking it. So, okay. So besides that, you are telling me just now that you already went through all this thing, related to your job. So actually, how do you actually, just now you said that, okay, you find that, macam tadi yang drama tu kan, you say ada cahaya lah, you already know how to nak, macam okay, talk to my mom and so on. But honestly, how do you actually make the plan untuk macam you nak bounce back to who you are right now? Sebab macam there's a lot of patient, it takes sometimes years baru they can bounce back. But how do you sendiri, definitely I think you went through that, macam mana you nak capai balik for who you are right now? Macam kita kata you're pre-morbid ni. How is it?
I think it has a lot to do with, first and foremost, you being honest with yourself and acknowledging that you have a problem. Because I think in my case, I was sort of brushing it, shrugging it, and sort of covering it up, sweeping everything under the rug. The first step was me, oh God, what the hell am I doing with a knife? My 1-year-old is walking inside. The hell, what happened to you, Daphne? So I think that was my first step, because I acknowledge and I did not blame myself for that. Because I think a lot of people blame themselves. They think that, oh, the depression is caused by me. My anxiety is caused by me. My illness is caused by, everything is caused by me. But it's not. It's situations. It could be genetic. It could be past experience, the trauma that you've had before, the community that you're surrounded with because of the culture and the mindset. There's a lot of factors. So we have to be kind to ourselves. Going back to another symptom, because it doesn't just all go away, right, doctor? It doesn't, for me at least. There I was, bounced back, met my husband, and then there were like ups and downs, because in life you have your ups and downs. So it's how you manage it. And again, you must remember that on top of my depression, I've also got a personality disorder where I need to be able to have control of certain things. I get very annoyed if papers are not susun, and I've learned to manage that a little bit better. I can't get out the house until all the pillows are at this. People laugh at me and they say like, oh, you're so OCD, and that is a real thing. because it really plays in my head. I cannot focus and have a nice dinner with my friends if I know at the back of my mind that I tak susun lagi pillow I dekat living room ni. So that was something that I needed to also work on, So like I said, there's ups and downs, right? Different illnesses that I was sort of, I'll neglect this one first, I'll focus on my depression. Oh wait, but then this one, and that is the reason why I was going through the postpartum depression. And again, even though I've interviewed tons of doctors like yourself in my lifetime as a broadcast journalist, and I've heard the script, I know the symptoms, and yet when it comes to me, I'm in denial. Why? Because of that other personality disorder that I've got, right? So with the postpartum depression, it was kasihan lah, because I love you, Iman. If you ever watch this, I love you, Iman. But it was very hard because I felt like I didn't bond with her. It probably was because I had looking back, when you acknowledge your thing and then you try and figure out what happened. It's a journey in your head of self-healing, right? I'm like, why did I do that? And I think it was because it was such a traumatic birth for me. I had planned my birth to be like this. Again, remember, it has to be like this. Suddenly, emergency. And I'm like, I didn't plan this. Now what am I going to do? Because all my plans are out the window. So I had that connection with her. And then I faced postpartum because I just looked at her and I'm like, she was colicky. She was just so, and I like lambung her on the bed. And that's when my husband got a little bit frightened because he said like, I'll take her in, and that's when I said, shoot, because I'm a very loving mom. But that's when I knew, okay, there are the symptoms again. Okay, spoke to my doctor. She recommended some stuff. That's when I know. So you have to, first and foremost, the step is to acknowledge, don't be in denial. And that's going to be very tough, especially if you have not just one issue, but a few that surrounds you. And two is to allow yourself to grieve, forgive, and heal and love yourself. Be kind to yourself. So I think those were the steps, baby steps for sure, and having a very good support system. So I think that's great. That helped.
Okay. All right. Because just now you mentioned earlier that when you went through the postpartum depression, right? I mean, is there any particular way that maybe you can deliver it to the mothers, like how, because just now you mentioned that that when you like terlambung anak apa semua tu kan, but then that was because you like snap, oh okay, there is something wrong with me. But how do you want the mothers generally out there to know that this is the limit where you are actually going through or entering the phase of postpartum depression? What do you think that you personally experience? Macam mana you nak cakap kat diorang, ni tanda-tanda dia, ni actually you are going through ni, macam tu.
I would like to extend this message not just to the mother, but to the partners with her. Because the partners out there will naturally think when she's going through moody, anger, tired, exhaustion, because all that happens, memanglah baru beranak kot, kan? Memanglah penat. But if they notice the partners, come on, you married your partner for a reason, you would know certain symptoms that are a little bit slightly away from their normal character, their normal behavior, and that's where you need to be there at your most supportive self. Because most of the time, we mothers, especially in this zaman where we are really strong, we are able to multitask, we're not just career women, where we've got different roles in the society, we are conditioning our mind that we are also able to do all that after giving birth to a human, There's a bit of pride that goes on there, So that's where the partner comes in play, and you have to be supportive because there is going to be bouts of exhaustion and stuff, and that's normal. A lot of people think that depression, tiredness and stuff, but when it's extreme fatigue, when you're constantly crying for no reasons, and they're going to say, itulah Moroyan, tak buat betul-betul confinement dia. And there's a sort of relation to that little makcik-makcik bawang punya thought. It's because they want you to have proper rest. And how are you going to have proper rest? Is when you don't have to take care of the other household because you've got your partners, you've got confinement lady, you've got other family members to do that, and you're just busy healing first and just maybe at most providing milk or food for your child. At that point of time, your newborn does mostly sleep. You're supposed to be sleeping and resting too, not trying to reply emails, not trying to be some superwoman doing all at the same time. And that's where the support system goes in. But, however, not all households has this luxury of maybe a confinement lady or a mak mertua that can be caring to come and help masak semua. You know, most of them are, the ones that I work with are just either single moms or the husband themselves are so young and they have no clue, or worse, missing in action. So, can you salahkan kalau kita nampak dekat berita, kita nampak woman yang baru bersalin buang baby dekat luar balcony? People go, astaghfirullahaladzim, how could they do that? How could the mother do that? Dia tu gila ke apa? And I'm like, oh, you know, this happy chirpy person, luckily I buang anak I dekat katil. Bouncy, mahal lah kami katil, at least soft. I've had those thoughts. Do not judge people. Be kind. Be mindful. I think that's very important. So moms out there, reach out. If you know you're feeling a little bit more tired than usual, don't say, oh, because yalah kot, I baru beranak. Yes, true. But there also could be something deeper. There's underlying issues that you may need to address with your doctor, someone who's professional. Seek for medical help because your hormones are going haywire, and there's a lot of other different things that could have happened, and only a professional will be able to sort of help you find those triggers and to find what really is the concern right now. Betul tak, doctor?
Betul. Because usually, I mean, the one that you experience postpartum depression, or some of them they say as a peripartum depression. I mean, ada orang say macam postpartum blues lah. Biasa di sini orang kata macam apa, gila meroyan, macam tu lah. So yeah, I mean, in our psychiatric department, actually what we focus on is we usually use the guideline lah, which is our DSM-5, which is a diagnostic and also statistic manual guideline, where we say that this is usually happens in women who actually either during the pregnancy period itself or at least 4 weeks postpartumly. It's just that commonly it can enter, I mean, this depressive symptoms can actually be continuous up to months post of your delivery. And do you know that actually, based on a lot of studies, it shows that actually around 3 to 6% of women in this world actually has been going through this. And with around that 3 to 6%, almost 50% actually go through these depressive symptoms before they deliver itself, meaning there's a lot of stressor. It could be, yes, 50%, surprisingly.
Yeah.
But it's because of what? Sometimes you have no idea about their spouse, or maybe financially, the environment itself. I mean, for God's sake, who knows about in-laws? You never know how's the support. And then you don't know how's the working environment they are going through. I mean, there's a lot of factors, a lot of stressors actually can be affecting it. Either it's a peripartum or even the postpartum itself. So, and all these things usually happens among the new mothers. And don't be surprised, even it happens in mothers yang orang kata, oh dah anak 5 pun nak jadi postpartum depression lagi.
Betul.
No, it can happen. The one that you are going through, Daphne, was it during your first child or the second child?
That was my second, but I sort of knew that in the first I had problems breastfeeding. It always triggers with something because it was not my perfect plan. So my doctor, because she knows that's why when Elin, my last child, my last child, I planned it to make sure it's last. She actually reminded me, Daphne, you are prone to this, be mindful. Spoke to my husband and said, just a reminder to everyone. And especially during the MCO, I gave birth, delivered during the MCO, which was a different ball game altogether, different stress game altogether. But yeah, very
But can you
mindful.
cope with stress so far?
I think because I'm always used to working from home anyway, I think the stress was more about not knowing financially our livelihood, where was it going, because I am in the entertainment industry. But then I think I'm also very resilient in that sense when it comes to my career, because I'm very focused. In my career, I'm very focused. And that's why, remember I told you about my NTV 7 days, I was very good at just putting up a front because I'm very set in my goal. So going back to how I've managed to pivot, and now we've got live stream. We've created this music room to now this professional live stream studio. So we've managed that quite well. However, I kesian the anak because at least kita adults we can go out and buy groceries. Itu pun we're so scared. Both of my husband and I are quite anal. So we will order in. But once in a blue moon, we have to go out because there's certain things that can't or run out from the groceries. So at least we can still get reprieve. Drive keluar sekejap, 5 minutes. But the kids, they can't, especially now with the total lockdown. So I pity them. I really do. And because I think it's the natural maternal instinct, when I was told I'm very empathetic. So I sort of absorb people's feelings. And kasihan lah, I absorb my anak when I'm like, how to make this better. That's a different ballgame altogether. Yeah. MCO has been tough for everyone, I think. Did you get a rise in MCO?
Definitely.
What were some of the tiba-tiba I pula yang jadi interviewer? But I'm really curious. What were some of the common illnesses that came after or during the pandemic, especially the first one, the first MCO?
What do you think? What do you think, Daphne?
Depression?
I mean, make a lucky guess.
Anxiety and depression.
Correct. Anxiety, depression, panic. All these three things are common. And not to forget substance-induced psychosis also.
And when you say that, that means they started getting addicted to other substances just to make them feel good? We're talking about drugs?
Correct. Because we don't know, during this MCO, I'm sure that most of us actually have been affected, affected especially in terms of salary. So what happened, there are a lot of stresses. I mean, maybe with the workload, some company mungkin they kurangkan the number of dia punya staff kan. Jadi some of them need pay cut some more. So some of them they just can't catch up with their life. So what happened when the stress going home, mungkin gaduh lagi, issue dekat rumah lagi. So at the end of it, how they want to feel better about themselves? Substance, drinking, even though they know they are at a tight financial budget. So most of them come with all this anxiety, depression, and even panic symptoms because they feel like, oh, macam mana ni? How about my future? Macam mana? They initially started with worry financially, but subsequently, nanti rumah kena tarik. Nanti anak macam mana, nak makan apa? Takkan nak biar anak terbiar? Oh, my child is sick, but I don't have money to bring to seek a medical attention. Then what else? It's like too much for them to think.
One after another. It's crazy.
Yes. I even experienced seeing one patient, he lost his job last year. So what happened? He came to us. Actually, it's like he is more of like trying to ventilate to us. But it's pity that actually it's a bit difficult because we can't help that much because all we can do is here, we try to refer to social welfare. But still there's a lot of things, a lot of paperwork sometimes that make it too complicated for them that at the end of it, that's why they came to the thought, I might just end my life because at least I don't have to go through all this stress, all this burden, all this debt. It would just brush away. So that's when along this MCO period, actually the challenging part is these three things.
And that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to highlight mental health, especially during the pandemic. I remember, and with no disrespect to the person who wanted to initiate this. So they wanted to get personalities, KOLs and celebrities to strongly advocate for people to stay at home, which was great because we wanted to flatten the curve. Fantastic.
Correct.
So we did that messaging, in their own way, to each in their own way. But then they started becoming a little bit preachy, some of my peers. And that's when I sort of said, guys, hold on. Do you know that not everybody has, like for me in this case, we have, so it's not a mansion, but if I cannot stand to see my husband because he's just annoying me, I can just run to the other room and he can be in another room and I would just things cool down, I'm fine. And we have a very loving relationship. There are families that live in one bedroom room. Maybe the father is abusive or he's sexually harassing his children or someone's in the living in the same household is sexually harassing. Not every home is safe, is loving or is conducive. Doesn't have the conducive environment. So we have to be mindful. So when we see reports and everyone going on Twitter or Facebook why are these people pasal orang macam ni lah tak keluar, orang suka lepak dekat tempat kopi, minum kopi sana, ni lah kes COVID ni naik. We don't really know their story. And most of the time, sadly, it is because they can't be at home because they'll either be hit. They're probably like, I'd rather get COVID than being whacked by my husband, by my father, or being harassed or raped over and over again, you know. So that was where I was, whilst we want to advocate people to stay safe at home, sometimes that home is not safe. Again, it goes back to being very community minded, to be kind, and to not stereotype everything as it is, to not generalize things as it is, you know. So I think this pandemic has been a discovery for a lot of people. It has allowed communities to be communities, or it can also bring out the worst versions of themselves. So which one do you choose? Which path do you want to choose? Do you want to be a better version and say, look, I can do my part, let's help the community? Or do you want to go, I'm going to go and stock up on my toilet paper and all the breads in the world because like, nanti if I don't take it, someone else is going to take it. We've got two different versions. Or you're going to go on Twitter like, aku tak suka lah government ni, aku tak suka lah this, everything is wrong. Oh, orang golongan kayangan lah. You're just saying all these negative things and you're just riling up other masses. And where does it bring you? So which option do you want to choose? How do you want to create a mentally healthy, positive, brighter community who is able to be stronger in not just physical, emotional, but also mentally? That is the choice, and this is what we're supposed to be educating and to, tell everyone that they can play a small role by just being kind.
Correct. I agree with what you said, definitely, because all these things is actually when we are generalizing it among all of them, it's unfair. I mean, we don't know the story behind it. As what you said just now, sometimes being safe at home doesn't mean that actually the home is safe. Because honestly, this pandemic season also, not to be surprised that our rape case, domestic violence also increasing. Because you don't know the stress that they have been going through, especially work from home. You need to adapt. Maybe, as you said earlier, the house is not probably at the size of a mansion. Maybe it's just 1 or 2 rooms, but they need to work from home. And while they are adapting all those things, it's actually causing extra stress to them. And I mean, it's not impossible that it actually leads to all this domestic violence, drinking, substance abuse, and then probably, depression, anxiety, or even panic itself. Because I also heard that some of them, when they work from home, it's like instead of you working office hour, it's more of like 24 hours working, isn't it? So yes, I believe it also affects you actually. So that's why we have to open up our mind, be not judgmental to some of them, because we don't know what they actually went through. And sometimes that's why it's very important that we sit down and we listen to the issues. Sometimes they may come with just as simple as, oh, saya pening kepala, balik-balik pening kepala. But then we don't know why. And we go through everything, there's nothing. But when we explore further on the social background, or maybe the personal things, sometimes we find the cause that leads to maybe the headache is associated with the anxiety or with the depression itself. We don't know what they had went through. So that's
You're
why we have to
absolutely right.
destigmatize this.
You're absolutely right. You know, just the other day, I was talking to my girlfriends about how I needed to stop putting so much on my plate. Because at the same time, I want to try and help out everyone, right? The entrepreneurs who needs a shout out for this. And then I feel bad when I don't give that shout out, because I was in the boat where I financially was so dry and I needed help, and angels came to save me, to help me out with whatever they could. So I've always been like, I need to help. But this was also causing me so much, because I didn't have time for myself, right? Another thing that how I cope during this MCO is, unlike my husband, who's a complete hermit, I like talking to my friends. And it's not the same, as much as I love talking to you right now, Dr. Farihah, it's just not the same as me hanging out with my girlfriends and hugging them and high-fiving them and going, you tahu tak? You know, it's just a little bit different. So I miss that. And I actually joined 2 network, not even 1, but 2 network businesses in order for me to keep sane, so that I would be able to still have connections with other people. You know, it was still a norm for me. That was me. But at the same time, having those 2 network businesses, and as I grew my team, I was like, oh my God, this is a lot. And they're constantly messaging me because I'm the leader. So I have to, again, it goes back to that. I have to jawab. Kalau tak, what leader is this when you don't jawab? So I said, you know what? After this time, 10 o'clock, I'm cutting it off. Please contact me at 7 o'clock in the morning. 6:30 at the earliest, and stuff like that. My husband's saying, yeah, right. I am managing that. It's true. I told myself after this Sunday, that's it. I'm going to make sure I cut off 10 o'clock that day. But my business partner is in
Work
Jamaica.
and life balance.
Okay,
I'll say it again.
Work and
Yeah,
life balance,
right.
right?
My husband's like, you're
Okay,
constantly
who's
on your
me?
work. But yes, that is something, I think for a lot of, where you were saying there's no definite time where we cut off from work. There's no life and work balance anymore. Gitu.
Tapi people always termiss itu bila dah work from home ni kan. They're
Betul,
like,
itu masalah dia.
okay, because boss said macam, okay, I want this by this time. I want this by this time. Or deadline ni. So it's like everybody just trying to chase the time, when they work from home. And then juggling nak kena masak
I
lagi.
think this one we kena kasih
handle
message
anak
sama
lagi.
bos-bos kami ba. Biarlah ba, kita ni kalau because everyone's going digital. I think that's also the problem. Everyone is going digital. So we are using all these digital platforms where transactions can be done 24/7. Tapi kita ni human, kita bukan 24/7, but we're expected to reply emails and WhatsApps and stuff like that as soon as possible. People are like, how come she's not messaging? Like, I'm like, dude, it's 12 o'clock in the 12 midnight. So I think that's something that we have to manage the bosses up. So bosses, kalau kau dengar di sekarang kan, janganlah merajuk kalau punya staff tu tidak jawab kau punya message lepas pukul 9 petang, 9 malam. Be kind, yo.
Well, perhaps earlier lah. Here, I think around 7 is already people going to
Sana
bed
gelap
probably.
cepat. Ya, sana gelap cepat.
Yeah. So yeah, in Sabah because we malam lagi awal kan. So yeah, definitely earlier lah. So I mean that's the importance of work-life balance lah. Because when we are too focused about working, especially even after office hour, that's what happens. That people tend to be easily stressed. And when stress accumulated, especially with things at home, things at work, itu yang jadi depression, and then they tend to have the panic attack also, and also the anxiety symptoms. Especially for those like in your condition, for example, postpartum depression, kerja, tapi you bersalin, MCO, and then you are worried. How about your work? Is there a job? Will there be any chance anymore? Is it I'm going to be fired any soon? Will I be pay cut? So there's a lot of possibility, and somehow it can develop anxiety. So
Correct.
that's why sometimes even when you deliver, sometimes all this superior also, they need some reassurance to tell their staff, okay, now it's MCO. Sometimes you tell the condition of the company and so on, because sometimes reassurance actually somehow helps the individual to feel better, to at least reduce the anxiousness, reduce the panicky part lah.
Betul tu. Especially the anxiety part, because a lot is now that on hindsight, now that you're telling me this, and because probably my mind is like, she's a professional, she knows what she's saying. Do you know that after I beranak, baru kena emergency, my fourth cesarean, sorry. I was working on the third day. Yang masih baru keluar dari hospital, the next day like, yeah, we go live. Lang, sakit lagi, like, let's go live. We're doing this live stream. I should cut some slack, man. I think my husband was right. He's like, you need to cool down, chill, guys, chill. Like,
A lot of your stress level is self-inflicting. That's the problem. You self-inflict yourself.
So is that the voice inside your mind or what, Daphne?
no, he's reminded me, because I think there was once where, because my husband also manages me, like literally manages my work life, right? But he does it like, if I've got my charity work and stuff like that, he won't get involved, but he will like, you're doing too much. You always focus on your main work, and there's your family. The kids are missing you. You've not been spending time with them. So I guess that's where the guilt part. And I think over time, my husband and I are able to have more matured discussions when we're discussing topics like this. Oh, it didn't used to be like this. Let me tell you, the first 2 years were like, oh my God, honeymoon years, whatever. It was like passionate, fiery discussions all the time. But we managed to have those mature discussions where he said, it's not that I larang you from doing another business. It's not that I larang you from taking up another hobby. It's just that you don't know how to, you suppress that sheer anxiety or whatever, that this is not good enough for me. And then it sort of spills over to how you react to the other family members. Because then I'm like a grumpy old mommy, right? Like, kenapa ba kotor ni rumah? Sudah kasih bersih, kenapa kamu kotor lagi? You know, because again, I'm like, and then they're so scared because I only see them, and then the first thing I see is not about joy, it's about like, why are you messing up this place? Do you know that now I have to clean up this place, and now it doesn't give me time to do work, for instance? Or in my husband's case, he misses his wife. He simply misses his wife, right? So yeah, I had to have a very hard, tough discussion, and I said, you know what, you're right. I understand where you're coming from. I shouldn't complain anymore about me being tired because I brought it to myself. But at the same time, it brings me joy. Whatever I'm doing, these hobbies that I have, but that's where I need to manage my expectations and just put a little, that's it, done, move on. Otherwise, I can't. So that's something that I have to manage on my own.
Basically, it's about balance, the pros and cons. There's something that you don't like, but if you enjoy it, so yeah, why not, isn't it?
Yeah, man.
So,
Yeah. Wih, kita cakap-cakap sudah 38 no kan? Berapa lama ni?
oh, perasan ba? Okay, so all right, let's focus on something about stigma again. So, okay, probably. Don't worry. What our conversation just now is mostly about sharing. We are generally open up so that definitely people know that actually it's not wrong. It's not wrong to admit your mental illness, and it's not wrong to validate the emotion that you are feeling. If you are feeling sad, tell people you are feeling sad. If you feel happy, tell people you are happy. It's okay. But too sad, have you heard that people always say it's okay to not be okay?
Yep.
However, there's a continuation to that actually. It's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay to not be okay for a very long time.
Yeah.
Yes, that is the key. People are always quoting the front part, but they forgot there is a duration on it. Because
You're right,
how
Doc.
come you want to be not okay for your lifetime? That's impossible, right?
Yeah. How long do you want to go through this painful experience? It's pain. You might not physically feel it, but I tell you, the
Yes.
mind is just a powerful tool. So I think that's even worse when it's just torturing you inside.
Correct. All right. So probably when we talk back about this stigma, right? Maybe you have anything to highlight on. Is there any suggestion that you can say about how to improve this stigma? Because you know that it's very difficult if you or your family members are not experiencing this mental illness. It's difficult for the outsider to understand. Probably you have an idea, or maybe you can suggest something to, advice for our audience here. How they should take this mental illness actually.
I think first and foremost is to research and read up as much as you can about the disorder. So in my case, I had a friend whose husband had bipolar, and she was very patient, and very loving and everything, right? So, but of course, it took a toll on her, and simply because he was not taking his medicines. So when he was on a high, he was all grandeur and stuff like that. But when he was on low, it was just really, it was hell for her and the kids. So she decided to be kind to herself and left the husband because she felt that I am no longer responsible for you. Because at the end of the day, you have had the expert advice of what you need to be done, but you are neglecting those advice from professionals. You're not taking your medicines in time. You think you're better than everyone else because you're not. Again, basically, it goes back to you're not taking the treatment. You're not treating yourself. You're not trying. You're not making any effort to make yourself better. So that can be a little bit tricky. But she did do her level best to try and understand and educate herself, because you're right. It's not easy living or dealing with someone who has mental disorders. But having said that, when you are able to have a better understanding of that disorder or that illness, then you're a little bit more compassionate and kinder, and you sort of know, okay, I need to back off because this is the time when, it's just going to hurt me, because your support, I'm the support system, for instance. Let's say my husband has an illness, or in this case, it's the balik is me, and he has to be, he knows when to back off. He knows when to back off because he has to constantly be my pillar, my support and everything, but he knows his boundaries or his limitations before it becomes worse. Back off, but he addresses, he knows, and then, it's very hard. It's tricky, doctor, I have to admit. But I think the first thing is to actually understand what the person's going through. Do your own research and educate yourself about it.
Right. Because actually this stigma, I agree with your part, knowledge. Meaning if we don't know, we don't understand, then we won't understand the situation. That's why it's important whenever there's someone say, oh, I have a depression. It's not like, ya ke kau depression? Kau buat saja ni, kau mengada ni sebenarnya, kau
Pergi
attention
sembayang.
seeking ba?
Yeah, always
Ya,
goes.
pergi
Pergi
sembahyang.
solat.
Pergi kau banyak mengaji. Itulah dia, kau tak buat solat hajat. No, actually everything is about when we heard that, by right, you should say, I'm sorry for what you go through. Oh, are you okay? So probably we can just sit down. Do you feel like you want to talk? Do you feel like you want to share? Sometimes ada orang dia rasa macam, oh, I want to talk to someone. Some people, no, I don't want to talk, but I would love somebody to accompany me. So that's why we want to, for you to understand the people going through that mental illness is either you listen and you have the knowledge, or you stay with them, you go through with them for you to understand the better what they are going through. Sama juga macam contoh, the one that your brother having schizophrenia, right? It's easy for me as a doctor to tell, oh, you kena buat macam ni, macam tu, macam ni, and so on semua. But for me to understand that is what I go through in the ward. I see them every day. I know how to manage them in psychotic way. So it is not easy actually. That's why sometimes it's not the matter of just treating the patient. It's also to treat the family because we want to know what are the issues that they don't understand. What are the things that they are concerned? Because lack of knowledge increase your anxiousness, increase the unnecessary doubt and causing the stigma even worse. So that's why knowledge, understanding is the essential of this stigma.
Doktor, ada orang tanya ni. Hi sis, Deb, I have a question. Sometimes, this is from Sherilyn. Sometimes when I have anxiety, I cannot sleep. Even I tired or did not sleep the whole night. I did not sleep the whole night. Macam mana saya minum ubat yang kasih tidur pun, I still cannot sleep. Saya rasa saya ada mental illness kah?
Okay, whenever you have issues with sleep, then that is an issue because we know that human by right mesti ada tidur paling kurang 5 ke 8 jam for the adults. So whenever you have an issue with sleep, first my advice is jangan sembarangan kau pergi pharmacy beli ubat sembarangan. No, don't do that. Get the right help. If paling-paling pun you want to do, what I can advise is sleep hygiene. You can start to Google that because sleep hygiene is you care, you jaga, you panggil penjagaan untuk tidur. So
How is that
what are
sleep
the sleep
hygiene?
Yes, it seems like a hygiene, but actually
Like
we call
bersih,
it sleep
hygiene.
hygiene. Yes,
wow,
sleep
okay.
hygiene untuk
Wow,
nak
okay.
jaga kita punya quality tidur. Yes, you can read that over our in Google also. There's a lot of tips about sleep hygiene. One of it, avoid caffeine, avoid late night snacking, avoid late dinner, avoid carbohydrates or sweet things, especially in the evening. And then some of them they can tolerate with milk, drink milk before bed. And do you know that actually our body is like an alarm clock? You need to teach your body to sleep. Apa maksud you teach is, okay, saya naik atas, mau masuk bilik, okay, masuk sudah bilik, lepas tu dia kata, okay, now I want to go to bed. I clean myself, I brush my teeth, baring. And then you must rest. And then, phone put aside. Lights must be dim or dark. That is very important. Sebab the moment you ada interruption, no matter from the phone or even from TV yang sentiasa on, radio, then it's something that disturb the sleep hygiene itself. So that's why ada orang dia pakai essential oil, ada yang pakai apa, bunyi laut lah, apa semua tu. So all those things also you can use. But meaning besides doing that sleep hygiene, for example, you already practice that, pun you tak boleh juga get medical attention help. Meaning just go to any nearest clinic kesihatan ke, any private clinic or even to the emergency department. You can tell them, I have trouble with sleep because sometimes trouble with sleep started with stressor. It's either you are exhausted or you have a lot of stress or sometimes have anxiety, panic or even Do you know that even schizophrenia, bipolar patient with manic, they also require less sleep because they have increase of energy. So that's why whenever you have a trouble that associated that cause a mind exhaustion, you have to seek help.
Okay, so I really hope that answered your question, Sherilyn. We've got another comment here from, maybe I'll keep it confidential. I'm having severe anxiety disorder. I cry for a few days, but I don't feel like to share it with my family members. I don't want them to worry about me. Doctor, your advice.
Okay, so whenever you have this mental condition, right? Is it this anxiety has been diagnosed? Is it you went through it by yourself or with your family members? Because usually in this mental illness, the most important thing is it's best if you have a support system, either from your friends or the best is your family members itself. I know sometimes it can be difficult to get family members to understand this. That's why sometimes what I advise to my patient is, okay, hari ni kau datang satu orang. Mungkin next time kalau you boleh bawa any of your family members, I can explain to them better so that they can at least help you to go through it. Contohnya kalau orang yang anxiety, memang we give medication because some patients, the first thing we need to do is pharmacotherapy so that we can control the symptoms. But then besides pharmacotherapy, we also have psychotherapy. Meaning we psychotherapy tu contohnya macam mana? Kita nak ajar breathing exercise ke? Which people looks like, oh breathing, alah senang je, pernafasan. But do you know there's a technique? Do you know there is also a progressive muscle relaxation technique? People need to learn all those things. And when they practice it, even I advise my patient, practice it daily. Sehari buatlah 2-3 kali. It also helps to control the anxiety symptoms. So sometimes all these anxiety patients pun, it will require multiple change of medication. It doesn't mean satu patient pakai ubat A, tak semestinya patient yang kedua pakai ubat A pun jalan. Our body ni berbeza-beza. So some of them may require different medication with the appropriate dosage. Only it can target to control the symptoms. So if you feel like you need your family to understand that better, might as well you can allow them to join your next session, or if you feel like tak apalah, you can also maybe share a link online ataupun you bagi the pamphlet to understand about your illness. That is also good as a start for sharing.
Any more questions from our side? Tak ada dah. All right. Okay, now no more questions for you, Doc. Because I had like a few people like putting it in my social media.
They texted you just to ask that, is it? Jadi macam you pula yang moderator.
Sorry. Tapi might as well ada professional mau jawab. Alang-alang jawab terus. Mana tahu ada orang lain yang ada question yang sama kan?
Okay. Let's see, maybe from the comment side. Okay, someone say how to start, who should I help, or his or her find to share about it. Okay, so probably about this question kan, sometimes you feel like you need help. How to start? Okay, sometimes it's just it's difficult untuk kita mula to open up sebenarnya. But that's why some people they start with going to any klinik kesihatan or seeing a doctor. Because why? When they talk to the doctor, because doctor is an outsider, they will tend to feel better to talk to an outsider. As time goes and then they are ready to share to their family members, dengan kawan, then slowly they will open up to them. So bila dia open up, baru dia akan rasa less burden. Sometimes when you open up, tak bermaksud dia akan selesaikan your problem. No. But at least it makes you feel calm and somehow you sometimes already know the idea macam mana nak selesaikan certain situation. But then it just needs someone else untuk emphasize it. Just macam kalau kita orang buat kami psychiatry pun bila jumpa patient kan, buat any therapy session. It's not that we are suggesting them the methods or the way to solve their issues, but we give them the idea. Macam kita guide dia punya pemikiran so that they know, oh sebenarnya boleh macam ni, oh actually macam ni pun boleh juga. So that we can help them better. Alright, so yeah, that's why yang tadi tu how to start, itulah And then this one, agreed with the be kind to your own self instead of putting all the guilt and blame towards yourself. However, need to acknowledge and be aware of any problems or issues you are going through. Yes, I agree with this. This is actually my brother. So actually, yeah. So actually, my brother, he's actually a psychiatric patient. He has been go through depression. So somehow, initially, even I go through myself, I feel guilt because I feel like I feel sister towards him. However, when I talked to him, I practice as a doctor. So I told him, yes, this is actually a benefit for you because you can validate your emotion to me. I can guide you how for you to get the right help. So from there, I actually channel him together with my family support. We channel him to the right place, and currently he's getting the adequate and the right treatment.
Bless you.
So, and then who else here? Suppressing emotion. Okay. All right. Yeah, this one is another of my colleague here, Dr. Farihah. So it said that it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to continue to be not okay for a long time. Yes, remember this. I emphasize this, and I would like everyone to remember that it's okay to not be okay. But if, for example, continuously, please don't get help. Talk to someone, no matter to your family members, to your best friends, or some people, they love to talk. I mean, we even have a Befrienders,
Yep.
Befrienders KL. And then there's a lot of hotlines actually that you can get help. Even you can go through our Facebook of Psychiatry Department Hospital Duchess of Kent. There's inbox there. You can DM there and you can tell some of your issues and we can counsel or advise accordingly. Maybe like, okay, just get a referral letter so that maybe you can get an appointment here. And yes, we can give that help.
We've got a question for you from Shima. Hi, doctor. How about a patient who refused to take medication because the patient asked whether does the medicine have side effect? Hence, she resists to
Okay.
consume. Okay.
Okay, so I think sometimes there's some patient they actually might have. Okay, whenever we see a patient, we will see how is the judgment and what are their insight. So usually for the judgment part is we ask for patient that have bipolar or even in schizophrenic or maybe a dementia patient. However, for the insight part is everybody, not necessarily everyone will admit their medical condition. So for all this like bipolar, schizo, and also dementia patient, it is a treatment that by force you have to give that treatment. Yes, when you ask them, they will feel no, I'm not sick, I doesn't need any help. So kenapa aku kena ambil ubat pula ni? So definitely they're gonna say that. But we, as the people around them, are responsible to ensure that at least they are safe. And what I mean safe, sebab all this schizo, bipolar and also dementia, they have aggression tendency. Kalau kita yang orang keliling tak bagi itu ubat, no matter you letak dalam dia punya makanan ke, dia punya minuman ke, atau kita tapuk-tapuk ke, cakap oh ni vitamin ke, if you don't give that, then you are not giving the best for the patient itself. So, bila kita bagi, yes, we can control the symptoms daripada aggression, harming self, harming others, destructing properties, because itu yang penting about this ubat. Because some of them, because of the poor insight, there's no point for you to argue with them. Some, yes, you boleh pujuk-pujuk macam orang tua. Tapi some of them, for the sake macam contoh orang kencing manis bah. You boleh ke kata, oh tak apalah biarlah tak cucuk. So kencing apa, you punya kencing manis pun makin teruk sampai potong kaki, potong apa itu sudah luka teruk. And then, oh you sakit jantung, oh tak nak makan ubat. Tak apalah, nanti you punya jantung berhenti pun ikut suka you lah. No. We as the people around them, we have to try our best at least to give that. I know it is difficult untuk nak pastikan orang yang sakit tu terima kenyataan dia sakit ataupun terima rawatan. But we have to try our best lah. Memang susah. But that's how kita yang orang keliling ni have to take
The
that
support group has to do that.
responsibility.
I hope that helps, Shima.
Yeah.
Doctor's answers was quite. Oh, got another one. Is it no more already? Okay, dah tak ada dah.
Okay, yang ni yang sleep hygiene tadi for anyone yang nak cari lah yang Puan Salma type ni. Okay, you can Google this, practice this, it's very good. We always advise to all our patient, no matter it's a depression, anxiety, memang very good to practice this. Okay, so definitely
just
any...
One more question here from Keith here. How about those mental illness associated with disantau orang? I often encounter stories like this. Can you give your perspective on this, doctor? Apa santau?
Okay, disantau. Itu orang kata di sini macam santik
Ayo, tu
Kalau
pun
orang
saya tak
Sabah dia panggil santik. Ada yang kata macam buatan orang lah.
tahu. Oh, karena okay, faham. Karena bikin.
So, okay. So, santik, buatan orang, santau, all these things, I know it's actually for us in science, theoretically, we take it as a cultural belief. Okay, kepercayaan ikut kaum itu atau agama tersebut. So, mental illness, yes, memang biasa orang akan related dengan ini maksudnya ada kena rasuk lah, kena santau apa semua tu. However, it doesn't, kita sekarang ni nowadays, we are going through seiring meaning itu agama pun seiring, kita punya rohani seiring, kita punya sains pun seiring. So it's not wrong you nak dapatkan rawatan spiritually, tapi it's also not wrong you get the science punya treatment. Sebab apa? Sometimes orang yang ada contohnya schizophrenia kan, they can presented with macam cakap-cakap sendiri, dia dengar suara orang, dia nampak benda-benda yang like they see things that other people don't see. So you nak cakap apa? Kalau orang lain kata tu namanya kena santau tu namanya dia ada kena rasuk. But actually no. When you combine rawatan rohani and also rawatan sains, it can actually help together. Believe it or not, ada je certain bomoh yang they go through, yang bomoh cerdik sikit lah. They actually even use the antipsychotic to treat. Lepas tu dia kata, aku buat ni jalan sudah ni. Actually no. That's why yes, we believe yang kita nampak macam kena kacau, kena santau apa semua. But in science, we believe either it's a dissociative disorder ataupun actually dia masa tu memang schizophrenia, because schizophrenia itself, patient can feel the delusion of control, ataupun we also had encounter a patient that actually have multiple personality.
Wow.
We had even spoke to, yes. So when we spoke to this person, kita tengok satu individu. Tapi within talking, bercakap dengan dia tu, it's like turns out ada 8 karakter yang keluar.
Wow.
Yes. And then kalau orang luar tengok, dia kata, ini memang kena ada setan lah tu dalam dia. Yes. But actually dia macam dissociative. Dia boleh juga orang yang bipolar pun, dia akan jadi total 2 different personality. When they are manic, habislah dia punya manic tu, dia punya very talkative, very friendly, all those things, disinhibited behavior, and then inflated self-esteem, all those symptoms they can develop. Tapi bila dia depressed, tiba-tiba social withdrawn, dia walk away, dia tak mau bercakap, tak mau makan, susah tidur, all those things can also occur. So yes, when you see psychiatry ni, memang orang banyak paling close kata, ni kena santau. But when you go through and you understand that better and you get both treatment seiring, insyaAllah, it can help.
Wise words. And I see that Nancy is already here, which means we have to zip it. But
It's a cue for us.
It's a cue for us. Thank you, doctor.
Okay.
Over to you, Nancy.
Alright,
I guess that's your cue.
Yeah.
Definitely, is there anything you want to say for?
Actually, this topic can go on, and I think we have to constantly have this conversation going on, because macam orang boleh lupa-lupa macam now we buat hangat and then 2-3 days dia lupa lagi. So thank you guys for inviting me on this platform, and I hope you guys continue to have this series to keep the conversation going.
Correct, right. Thank you so much, Daphne, for spending your time, sharing your personal experience.
Thank you.
Okay,
So,
kita stay dulu untuk kita ambil gambar.
Oh,
Boleh.
okay.
Okay, jom. Sebelah di sana. Kita screenshot dulu.
Okay, let's screenshot.
Okay, kita together with
Kita pusing sikit lah.
other member
Okay.
of Postpartum Depression.
Nampak tak? Okay. Turun. Okay. Situ. Okay tak? Nampak tak?
Satu.
Nampak tangan je? Okay.
Okay, one more time. One, two. Alright. Alright, thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you Nancy. Thank you doctor. Thank you team. Bye everyone.
Thank you
Bye.
Nancy. Thank you
Bye.
Daphne.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.